Good morning and welcome to Mobile Device Manager Plus training program. I hope I'm audible and you're able to view the presentation. Please confirm by commenting on chat. Now that I have received a few confirmations, I will start off. This is a 2-week training program that will help you get familiar with all the capabilities that Mobile Device Manager Plus has to offer. And we are in week 1 today. I am Harshita Sharma, Product Specialist for Mobile Device Manager Plus, and I will be your trainer for today. Today, we will be dealing with device enrollment and provisioning. So let's have a quick view at the agenda for today. We will start off with the overview of Mobile Device Manager Plus. This training has been arranged in a problem solution approach. This will help us understand the features using real-time scenarios. First off, we will be seeing the various techniques that are available for enrolling mobile devices. Next, we will see how to push corporate configurations to manage devices. We will also be seeing how Mobile Device Manager Plus eases asset management for administrators. This will be followed by a few scenarios and their solutions. In case you have any questions, please feel free to ask us in chat. We have an expert panel who will answer these questions immediately. These questions will be discussed at the end of the training for the benefit of other users. Mobile Device Manager Plus allows us to manage tablets and mobile devices running on iOS, Android, and Windows operating systems. It is available as an add-on to Desktop Central, as a standalone on-premises product, as well as on cloud. So we will start off by understanding the Mobile Device Manager Plus architecture. It consists of 3 main components: the server, the notification services, and the devices to be managed. The server uses these notification services like APNS, GCM, and WNS to wake these devices. These devices then contact the server for tasks and information that is required. Since the devices that we are managing are mobile, the server must be reachable at all times. And hence, you need to NAT your internal IP address to a public IP address. If you're worried about security and do not wish to expose your server to the internet, we allow you to configure a forwarding server. This forwarding server acts as an intermediary between the server and the internet and is the one that is exposed. If you're using the cloud version of Mobile Device Manager Plus, you do not need to worry about any of these settings. For communication between the Mobile Device Manager Plus server and the devices, a few ports need to be opened. For communication between the devices and the MDM server, the inbound port 9383 should be opened. For communication between the Mobile Device Manager Plus server and the notification services, ports 2195 and 443 should be opened. Similarly, for communication between the devices and the notification services, these are the ports that need to be opened. These ports need to be opened only if the devices are present behind a firewall. So how exactly do we manage these mobile devices? So in case of iOS and Windows devices, we leverage a native MDM client that is already present in the devices to manage them. Whereas in the case of Android devices, no such agent is present. So hence, we download an MDM app into the devices that we are trying to manage. But before we can start managing these devices, we need to bring these devices under our management. That is nothing but enrolling mobile devices. So let's say I'm an IT administrator of an organization which has both iOS and Android devices. These devices are already in the hands of the users and I need to manage them. So for managing these devices, I will enroll them using a technique known as enrollment with invites. In this case, what happens is that the administrator sends an email invite to the user. So this user then accepts the invitation and performs the enrollment of the device. Once the device gets enrolled with MDM, it gets registered with it as well. So let me show you how we can send this invite to a user. So for that, we need to log into a console using your credentials and click on Enrollment. So now, before we can start sending an enrollment invite, we need to create an APNS certificate. As already mentioned, APNS is used for communication between the server and the devices. So hence, this is a mandatory step that needs to be performed. Here, I have already created an APNS certificate, but let me show you the steps that are to be performed on a different portal. So here, we will again go to Enrollment and click on APNS certificate. So the first step that we have to do is we need to download a vendor signed CSR. Once we have downloaded this, we need to upload it on the APN portal. Once uploaded, this will generate the APNS certificate. We also need to provide the corporate Apple ID while creating this APNS certificate, because if we use a normal email ID, when the license expires, we will not be able to renew it. So in case you want to renew the renew the APNS certificate, we need to use a corporate Apple ID. So also, as mentioned, this certificate expires in 1 year and also has to be renewed. So provide the email address of the person who will be responsible for doing that. Once you upload it, all the certificate details will be appearing as I had shown you before. So as in this case, it is available here. Now that we have created it, we can continue with our enrollment of devices. So under Enroll, click on Devices and Enroll Devices. As you can see, we have all the 3 operating systems available here. And hence, this can be used for enrolling any of these devices. So I will show you how this can be done for iOS device. So I click on iOS and I will provide the username. So this is the name of the person who has the device. So I will be using John as my name, and I will provide the user's email address as well. So the user will receive an invite on this particular email address. So now, this device that I'm trying to enroll is personally owned by Tom, and I want to manage it. So I'm choosing personal as my own by option. In case the devices are owned by the organization, we can choose corporate as our option here. Now, Mobile Device Manager Plus has a few default groups into which the devices will fall once they are enrolled. So these groups are based on the operating system as well as the owner of the device. So here, since we are enrolling an iOS device, which is personally owned, it falls under the default iOS personal group. So we can also make changes to this email that we are sending the user. So in case you want to add any extra information to the invite that you're sending to the user, you can choose to do so here. So now I will click on cancel since I have not made any changes. So yeah. So now I will click on enroll to send this enrollment request. As you can see here, this is John's device that I had sent the invite to, and it says yet to enroll here. So now let me show you the email that the user will receive. So this is the user email that they have received. So here, this is the URL that they have to access from the device that they are trying to enroll. And here we have a passcode that will be used for authenticating this enrollment request. So let me show you how we can enroll a device on the device. So here, once we access the URL that we had provided in the email, you will have to enter the passcode that was also present in the email. So once we have done that, it will download an MDM profile. So this is the MDM profile that will be downloaded and will be used to manage these devices. Once the installation is completed, the device will get successfully enrolled. Now, does this mean that I have to send out the invites individually to each and every device? That is not the case. We can choose to send multiple invites at once. So for that, we have an option here known as bulk enrollment. So when you click on that, you can choose it to upload a CSV file. So I will show you what are the information that needs to be provided in this CSV file. So in this CSV file, we need to provide the username, domain name, and other information that we had provided individually in the previous invite. So once you have created a CSV file with all these details, you can upload it here, and all the users that are in the CSV file will receive an invite. But as an IT administrator, I do not want to keep sending invites every time a device is to be enrolled. I want to leave the enrollment process in the hands of my users. So in that case, I can make use of the self-enrollment method. Here, what happens is that the user accesses the self-enrollment portal from the device he wants to enroll. He will then use his Active Directory credentials for performing the enrollment. Once the enrollment is completed, the device gets registered with MDM. So now let me show you how we can set up this self-enrollment portal. So on our console, under Enroll, we click on Self-Enrollment. So here, we will have to enable this self-enrollment option. So once I have clicked Enable, this is the URL that the user has to use for enrolling his devices. You can make these URL available to the user either using your internal forums or by email when they join the organization. So this can be done only if you have your Active Directory configured on the server. So now, since the enrollment is left completely in the hands of the user, it is better that the IT administrator is notified when a new device has been enrolled into the organization. So I will enable this option. Notify me when a device is enrolled to self-enrollment. And I have provided the email address of my IT administrator. As already mentioned, these are the groups into which the devices will fall when they are enrolled. So I will click Save, and now I have set up my enrollment portal. So now I will show you how we can enroll an Android device into our organization. So I have taken an Android device and I have accessed the URL that was there in the self-enrollment portal. So once I have done that, the first step is I need to add the server details. So these server details are the ones that are managing these devices. Once this has been completed, our next step is to provide the Active Directory credential of the user. So I have provided my username and password and other details like whether this device is owned personally or by the organization. So once I click on Continue, the device gets enrolled with MDM. Now, my organization has purchased new devices. They are 50 in number, which need to be enrolled. So if I think about enrolling these devices using the previously mentioned methods, I will firstly have to complete the initial setup of the device. That is, when the device is being activated, there are a few setup steps that need to be performed. So I will have to perform all of these individually. Next, I will have to enroll these devices using the methods which involve some manual steps to be performed. So to prevent users from this trouble, Mobile Device Manager Plus has a few automated enrollment methods. For iOS devices, we have the Apple Configurator method and the Apple DEP method. And in the case of Android devices, we have the DPC enrollment and the Samsung Knox enrollment. We will be discussing all of these enrollment methods, but let me start off with Apple Configurator. So Apple Configurator is a tool that allows us to apply device management settings onto our devices. It also helps us to reduce the initial setup steps. So this is the reason why we use Apple Configurator for enrolling our devices. So let's see how it works. So the first thing that we have to do is we need to install and set up an Apple Configurator on Mac machine. Next, we need to connect the devices to the Mac machine using a USB hub. The third step is to activate the devices. Once the devices get activated, they automatically get registered with MDM. So let me show you what are the steps that are involved in this process. So the first thing that we have to do is to set up the Apple Configurator. So here, this involves 3 steps. The first is we need to create a Wi-Fi profile. So this Wi-Fi profile contains the detail of the Wi-Fi to which the device will connect to upon activation. Our next step is we need to add the MDM server details, which will be managing the devices. The third and final step is to configure the iOS setup assistant. These steps will be bundled into something that is known as a blueprint. So this blueprint can be created using an Apple configurator. So let me show you how that is done. So open up Apple configurator on your Mac device and click on blueprint and edit blueprint. So here I'm creating a new blueprint and selected new, and I will provide a name for it. So now I have done that. My first step is to create the Wi-Fi profile. So I will go to File and I will choose New Profile. Here I will be creating a Wi-Fi profile. So I select Wi-Fi and I configure it. So choose the Wi-Fi to which you want your device to connect to. So I have provided the name. I have enabled this option Auto Join to ensure that the device automatically connects to this upon boot up. So now I will be saving this profile as Wi-Fi profile. So once I have done that, I can add this to my blueprint. So I click on Add Profiles and click on Add. Once this is done, I will move on to my next step, which is adding the MDM server details. That is known as preparing the blueprint. So I select the blueprint and click on Prepare. So now I will choose Manual Configuration since I will be manually doing it. I click on Next. Here we will choose the server which will be managing these devices. I click on Next. In case your organization wants to exercise additional control over the device, we can choose to supervise them. What this does is it allows us to add apps silently into the devices. There are many more benefits of supervising the devices. Now I click on Next. Provide the name of the organization which is supervising these devices. Once this step is done, this is where I will be configuring my iOS setup assistant as well. So now these are the list of the steps that have to be performed when a device is being activated. I do not want to manually perform these steps on my devices. So I will choose to skip all of these steps. So once I click on Prepare, the blueprint will be prepared and will be ready to apply on my devices. And hence, my next step is to connect the devices to a Mac. So now I will be using a USB hub to connect these devices. You can enroll as many devices as the hub allows you at once. So once you have connected the device, it will appear on this tab. So select this and click on Apply. So click on Blueprint and you will be able to apply this blueprint to the device that you have selected. So once this is done, the device will get enrolled with MDM. So let's see what happens on the device now. So when the device is being activated, this is the first step that you will see. So our next step is the Wi-Fi. So as I had already selected my Wi-Fi, it will automatically get connected to it. Once it gets connected, it will download all the configuration that I had applied. So here I will have to choose Apply Configurations. In case I choose Skip Configuration, I will not be able to manage this particular device. So once the installation is completed, the device will be managed. As I had chosen to skip all the initial setup steps, the device will be ready to use. So my next step is these devices are new and I will be the one providing it to my employees. And hence, I can assign each of these devices to my employees. That can be done using our MDM server. So we will go to our server and click on Apple Configurator. So this is the device that I had enrolled now. So you can assign the user on a user-to-user basis or in bulk. So if you have a small number of devices, you can choose to select it and click on Assign Users. Provide all the details that are required. So I will provide the username here and the email address. So I will be assigning it to the default group and provide a name to this device. Once you click Assign, the device will get assigned to the particular user. And it will move from this tab to the Devices tab here. So this is the device that I had assigned right now. So now that we have seen how we can do it for iOS devices, we have a method called the Device Policy Controller Enrollment method, or the DPC enrollment. As already discussed, for an Android device to be managed, the first thing that you have to do is to download the MEMDM app into the device. The next step is to manually enter the server details. So this enrollment method completely automates that process for us. So let's see how it does that. So the first thing that we have to do is use a DPC identifier to automatically download an MEMDM app into the device. The next is to scan a QR code which has all the server details of our server. This will complete the enrollment process, and once that is done, the device gets registered with MDM. All these steps need to be performed on the devices that we are trying to enroll. So let's see how we can do that. So when a device is being activated, it asks us to enter our Google account details. So instead of adding a Google account details, we will add a DPC identifier, which is titled as AFW#MEMDM. So what this does is it contacts the Google Play Store and automatically downloads the MEMDM app into the device. Once the download is completed, the MEMDM app will open and it will ask us to scan a QR code. So let me show you where this QR code is available on our server. So on our server, under Android, click on QR code enrollment. So here we have the steps to enroll on the right corner. So click on that, and this is the QR code that has to be scanned. Once you scan this, all the server details will get added into the device. So once that is done, the device will get enrolled with MDM. Our next step will be to complete the assignment process. So this is very similar to how we had done for Apple Configurator. So we can either choose to do it in bulk or on a user-to-user basis. So now, my organization is growing and it has purchased 500 new devices. So this is a large number of devices that are to be managed. So is there a way in which I can completely automate my enrollment process? So it is possible, but there are a few prerequisites that need to be met. So the first is that we need to create an account with Apple or Samsung. The second is we need to purchase devices from authorized resellers. Only if these prerequisites are met can we enroll the devices using the method I am going to discuss now. So the first method that I will be discussing is the Apple DEP, or the Apple Device Enrollment Program. So this particular enrollment method allows us to automate the enrollment for iOS devices. So the first step that we have to perform is to integrate our MDM server with the DEP portal. The next is to add our devices to this portal. So since the MDM portal and the DEP portal are already in sync, the devices are essentially being added to the MDM server itself. So this is the steps that need to be performed by the administrator. The rest of the steps can be either taken care by the user or the administrator. So the next step is to distribute and activate our devices. Once the activation is completed, the device automatically gets registered with MDM. So let's see how we can perform these steps. So the first thing that we have to do is on the server, go and download an MDM public key. This MDM public key will help us securely connect to the DEP portal. This has to be uploaded to the portal. So I will log into the portal using my credentials and click on Add MDM Server. So next step is to provide the name of the server, which I have done here, and enable this option automatically assign new devices. What this does is any more new devices that I purchase using my account will automatically get assigned to this particular server that I'm just creating. So I click on Next and upload the MDM public key that I had downloaded on my server. So this will generate a server token. So this server token has to be uploaded on our console. So I have uploaded the token here, and this DEP token also expires in a year. So the renewal also has to be taken care by the IT administrator. So once you click on enroll, there are a few settings that need to be performed upon activation. So if you want the device to get automatically enrolled, you can enable this option, force install MDM during device setup. As already mentioned, if you want to exercise additional control, you can choose to supervise these devices. Since the devices we are managing should not go off our management, we need to restrict users from removing the MDM from devices. So I have enabled this option as well. These are all the steps that will appear on activation, and we can choose to skip these steps. So once we click create, all the settings have been done and the profile is ready to be applied onto the devices. So my next step is to add these devices. So now I go to manage devices, and the name of the user available here, we will have to click on organization details. So what we are doing here is we are adding our reseller details. So I will click on add reseller. What this helps us in doing is that when we purchase any new devices, the reseller can automatically add those into our account. So I will select reseller here and provide the reseller's ID and click on OK. Once this is done, the reseller details have been added. But the devices that I have already purchased need to be manually added to this portal. We have three ways of doing that. We can either use the serial number of the device, the order number of the purchase, or upload a CSV file with all the details. So here I'm going with the serial number method. So I have provided the serial number of the device. And under choose action, I have chosen to assign it to the server that I had just created. And I will click on OK. Once I have done that, my assignment is completed and these devices will appear on my portal. For that, I need to go back onto my portal and click on sync devices. So the MDM server is synced with the DEP portal once a day. So since I have now added these devices, if I click on sync devices, they will immediately get added. Otherwise, they will get added on a next sync cycle. So now, when the device is being activated, let's see what happens. So the first step that happens upon activation is that Wilco will automatically configure your iPhone. So here, we do not have the provision to skip this configuration. Once this installation is completed, since we had chosen to skip the initial setup steps, the device will be ready to use. Now my next step is to assign the devices to my users. So for that, I can do it how I did it for Apple Configurator and DPC method, or I can choose to automate this step also. So let me show you how that is. So on the server, we will go to Apple DEP. Yeah. So now this is a setting we have to configure here. So go to settings and click on modify. So here, this particular setting, authenticate and auto assign users and device activation, needs to be enabled. So what happens is when we hand out the devices to our users and when they activate it, they will be asked to enter their Active Directory credentials. So once they enter that Active Directory credentials, the device will automatically get assigned to them. So this way we can automate this step also for us. Now, in the case of Samsung devices, we can automate our enrollment using the Samsung Knox enrollment. So the first thing that we have to do in this case is to set up the Knox portal. The next is to add the devices to this portal. Once this is done, we will assign an MDM profile to these devices. So once these steps have been performed and the devices have been distributed to the users, upon activation, the device will contact the Samsung Knox portal and get all the configurations that are required into the device. So once this is completed, the device will get enrolled and registered with MDM. So now, let me show you how we can do these steps. So we will log into the Samsung Knox portal, and the first thing that we do is create the MDM profile. So click on MDM profile, and we will add a new profile here. So I click on add. Select this option, server URI not required. As already mentioned, for Android devices, we need to add the MDM app into the device and the server details. So that can be automated by entering this APK URL into the portal. This MDM profile contains all the server details. So once we add this to the portal, this will automatically get added to our devices. So here I have provided the URL for my APK, and here under the custom JSON data, I have provided my MDM profile details. I will click save to save this profile. So now my next step is to add my devices. For that, I again need to add my reseller details. So I will click on reseller and register my reseller. So once I click on this button, register reseller, it will prompt me to enter my reseller ID. So once I have done that, I can click on add. So my next step is to manually add the devices that I have already purchased. The new devices that I purchased henceforth will be taken care directly by the resellers. So they will add those devices into our account and will be enrolled with it. So I will click on submit new devices. And for this, we have to upload a CSV file with all the data. So I have done that. And I click on upload. So here we will have the device purchase details and the MDM profile to which we want this device to get enrolled to. So I will click on submit. Now, Samsung will verify if these devices were actually purchased from the resellers, and once the verification is completed, they will allow us to complete our enrollment process. So now, let's see what happens upon device activation. So once the device gets activated, we need to connect to a Wi-Fi portal to download all the configurations. So we will accept all the terms and conditions pushed forth to us. So it will check for updates and download the configurations. It will authenticate all the details that are provided, download it, and show us the organization which will be managing our devices. So once this enrollment is completed, the device will be managed by Mobile Device Manager Plus. So now these are all the enrollment techniques that are available for enrolling our devices. So now once the devices are ready, the next step we need to do is to add the corporate configurations into them. These configurations are required to provide corporate data to corporate access. So once this is done, let me show you how Mobile Device Manager Plus allows us to do that. So on the server, we will click on Device Management. So these configurations will be applied in the form of profiles. So let me show you how we can add a passcode policy into these devices that we are managing. So I will click on Profiles, and I will create a passcode policy for you. So these profiles that we are creating are also dependent on the operating system of the device. So here, I will choose an iOS profile. So I will provide the name for this particular profile and a description. So here, we have various options with which we can decide on the passcode that we want to set on the devices. So if we do not want to allow simple values, we can click on no. And we can also choose to allow alphanumeric values. So in this case, I will be choosing the minimum passcode length to be 4. So once you click save, all your changes will be saved, and we need to publish this profile. So once we publish this profile is ready to be applied onto my devices. So it is always recommended to apply a profile to one particular device to check if it meets all your requirements. So I will be doing that before I apply it to all the devices in my organization. So I go to Groups and Devices, and I click on Devices. So since this is an iOS profile, I will choose an iOS device to apply it to. So I've chosen the device, and I will associate a profile. So this is the passcode profile that I had just created. I will select it. So now it says passcode is associated with the iPhone successfully. So in case you want to see the status of the profile, you can see that the notification has been sent for the profile to be applied onto the devices. So let me show you what happens on the device now. So since it's a passcode profile, this passcode has to be set manually by the user, and it is user specific. So a notification will appear to the user to change their passcode to meet the requirement of the organization. So once they have set that, the notification will disappear. So now, I feel that this particular passcode policy is not strenuous enough for my organization. So I will go and modify it to my requirements. So you can choose to do that by selecting it. And under Actions, we can choose to modify the profile. So you continue. And I'm going to make the minimum passcode length as 8 here. And click Save. So once it is saved and published, I will apply it back onto my device. So I will go to Devices, and I will select this particular device. Now, here we have an option which talks about the executed version and the latest version. The executed version is the one that is available on the device, and the latest version of the profile is the one that is available on our server. As you can see, they do not match. That means that I will have to upgrade my profile, which is available on this particular device. So I will select the device, and under Action, this button here is for upgrading the profile. So I click on that and select it. So now my profile has been upgraded. As you can see, the executed version and the latest version are in sync with each other. So now that is done, I feel that this passcode policy is good enough to be applied to my devices. So I will go back to the Groups and Devices. I will go to Devices and filter out the devices that are on the iOS. So these are the iOS devices in my organization, and I will select them all and associate this profile that I had created. So this is the passcode profile. I'll click Select. So now my passcode profile has been applied to the devices. Let's say there is a profile that you want to apply only to a certain group of devices in your organization, say only for the finance department. So what we can do is we can create a group with those devices and add all the devices into this group. So I will choose the iOS devices that are there in this group and click on OK. So once I have created the group, I can select the group and click on Associate Profile. I can choose to associate the profile as I had done before. So once this is done, this will associate this profile to all the devices that are present in that group. Any new devices that we add to this particular group will automatically receive this profile. Now, passcode is just one profile that can be created. There are a lot more profiles and configurations that can be applied to the devices. So let me show you a few. So I will go back to iOS profile and show you how it is done. So here, when you're giving access to a device, there are a few things that we need to ensure. So the first is we need to select the Wi-Fi to which we are connecting our device to. So here, we can choose the Wi-Fi to which we will be connecting it. So I have provided all the details that are required here. for my Wi-Fi. I have ensured this is enabled, automatically join network. So what this does, again, as mentioned before, it will automatically connect the devices when this Wi-Fi will be available. Most of the corporate communication happens over email. So it is essential that the devices have an email account configured in it. So I have provided the account name and all the required details. You may think an email is always user specific. So how does one profile serve this purpose? So here what we do is we use dynamic variables. So these dynamic variables will obtain the details that are available on the device and associated respectively. So here, as you can see, the username and the email address have been filled with dynamic variables. So once I click on Save, this configuration will be saved. Many organizations allow users to work from their home, but they will still require access to corporate data. So to secure this communication, we can set up a VPN or a virtual private network. So we have provided all the details here for that. And we also have an additional option to enable VPN on demand. So here we can provide the list of domains to which when a device connects to, a VPN is automatically set up. So the user does not have to specifically go and set up a VPN before accessing these domains. So once I have clicked Save and published this. So these profiles are ready and they can be applied to the devices as I had already shown it to you. So my next step is managing the assets that are available on my organization. So for this also, Mobile Device Manager Plus helps us out. So it provides all the granular details that are available on this device. So let's see how that is happening on our server. So we click on Inventory. And here we have a few details about the devices that are in our network. We have the platform, the OS version, and the space that is available in the device. In case you want specific details about the devices, you can click on the particular device. Here you can see the detail about the devices, the operating system, memory usage, etc. So we also have details about the device's hardware and network, the apps that are installed in the devices, the certificates that are associated, and the restrictions that we have applied to this particular device. In addition to this, we can keep a track of the location of the device. That is nothing but geo-tracking. We will be discussing this feature in our next session. So now, in case you have made changes to the device settings and you want to view those changes. So what we can do is go and scan these devices. So as mentioned before, the scan will happen once in a day, but if you want to view the changes immediately, you can choose to scan them. So here you can choose to scan all the devices or one particular device. So once you do that, you will have the status of the scan available here. And in case a scan fails for some reason, you will have the remarks here. So you can read a KB to troubleshoot this problem. So does this mean every time I make a change, I need to come back and scan my devices? That is not the case. You can choose to schedule the device scan as well. So for that, you can click on Schedule Device Scan and enable this scheduler. So you can do it on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis. So you can choose a time when you want it to happen. So I have chosen 9 a.m. as my option, and I want it to happen every Monday morning. So I will click this Save Changes button, and this device scan has been scheduled. Now, in case there is any information that I have that I want to be available on the server, I can choose to manually go and add these details. So I can select the device and I can choose to add various device details in this case. So I can add the details about the asset tag, the owner of this particular device, or where this device is present in my organization. Most organizations have different branches and offices, so I can choose to enter those details. Essential information like the warranty expiry date or the warranty number can also be added. You do not need to do this on a device-to-device basis. You can choose to bulk edit these device details also by entering the CSV file. We had already seen an example CSV file. Let me show you another one. So this is all the details that you can add here. So now, these are general details that are available on all the devices. I might have a requirement to get the device details based on specific conditions. So for that, Mobile Device Manager Plus helps us generate reports. So we can click on reports. These are all the reports that are available on the MDM server directly. So we have reports about the apps that are available on our devices, the hardware details, the reports on the enrollment and security as well. So here, all these reports can be generated immediately. So let me show you an example of the inactive devices in my network. So inactive device, as already mentioned, the server will scan all these devices once a day. So when a scan happens, the last contact time gets updated. So if a device hasn't contacted the server in a particular time period, we will be able to view those in this report here. So here I have chosen the inactivity period as 1 month. So these are the devices that I haven't contacted the server in over a month. So here we have other options as well to choose the times. We can also choose to customize it. So here we can choose to get 2 months data as well. So I will choose from April 12th to June 1st, and I will generate this report. So these are the devices that haven't contacted my server in this time period. So now, this report may be essential for an organization and needs to be regularly generated. So for that, you do not have to keep coming back to the server. We can send it over to you on your email. So for that, you need to schedule these reports. So click on Schedule Reports and add a scheduled report. So here, you will provide the scheduler name. I'm going to choose the blacklisted app as my report that I want to generate. So here, the blacklisted app summary is the required report that I want. So now, there is a format in which you will receive this particular report. So either you can receive it as a PDF, an XLS, or a CSV. If you want to receive as an attachment, you can select this option, or it can be sent as a zipped file as well. We can also publish these reports on the MDM server and send the URL alone to the user. So provide the name of the user who will be receiving this report and the subject line as well. Since the subject line is blacklisted app reports, I will be adding that itself and the content if required. So now, how frequently do you want to keep receiving these reports? So I will click on Configure Scheduler. I want to receive it on a monthly basis. So I have selected my time when I want to receive it and which day I want it to happen. So I want it to happen on first Monday. So, and I will click on, and I want it to happen on alternate months. I have selected that and I have scheduled it. So my next schedule will be on the first Monday of the selected month. So once I have clicked save, this schedule will be updated, and the day that we have scheduled it for, you will receive these reports on your email. So now, these are just, again, a few things that are available. Most organizations may require some specific details that are not directly available. For that, you can contact the MDM people and they will create a query for you. So that is known as a query report. So let me show you how this query report works. So I will click on a new query report and I will go to request for query. So here I will have the details that I need to provide for my query form. So I will have to provide the database I'm using and a report description. So once I provide all these details, the MDM technical team will provide us with a query. So once we add the query here with the report name, we can generate it as and when required. We can either choose to run the report or save it for later use. So let me show you a query that I already have. So here, under custom report, I have this warranty report. So this is the detail about all the devices whose warranty has expired. So once I click on run report, I will get the details. So this is the device whose warranty has expired on June 3rd. So now, once I have received these details, I can either choose to save the report or run it just enough. So now, this brings us to the scenarios and solutions. In case you have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask us in chat. So my first scenario is that my organization uses Windows devices. How can I enroll these devices in bulk without user interaction? For Windows devices, we have an enrollment method known as Windows ICD. So this helps us to enroll the devices in bulk. So here's the Windows ICD method. So what we do is we download a PPKG file, which we will apply to the devices that we are trying to enroll. So this is a very simple process and it is similar to the Apple configurator method. My next scenario is an employee is moved from one department to another. The old profiles and restrictions should be removed and the new ones pertaining to the department must be added. How can this be done over the air? This may seem like a very difficult task, but it is actually simplified using Mobile Device Manager Plus. So here what we have to do is we simply have to remove a device from one group and add it to another group. So let's say somebody from the marketing department, so somebody from one department is moving to another. So I have a device in the sales department. So I will choose to remove this user from this department and add him to another department. So I have added him to the marketing department now. So what this does is it removes all the profiles that had been associated when he was in the sales department and adds the details that are required for being in the marketing department. So my next scenario is how to check if an iOS device is supervised or not. So this detail is available directly on our inventory section. So I go to inventory and this is the button known as column chooser. So these are all the other details that are available on our console. So you can choose to view them directly. So I have chosen is supervised option and I click save. So this is the supervision details about all the devices in my organization. So does the admin get notified when a device is unmanaged? It is always better for the user to be notified when a device is being unmanaged for him to know what is to be done next. So for that, we need to make a setting. So I go to enrollment. And under enrollment settings, we enable this option, notifying when the device becomes unmanaged, and provide the email address of the IT administrator. So once you click save, every time a device is unmanaged, the IT administrator will receive an email. My next scenario, I do not want users to be able to remove devices from our management. How can I do that? So let me explain it to you for how we can do it for Android devices first. So for Android devices, we can go to the MeMDM app here. And this option allows users to remove MeMDM app should be disabled. So once this is done, the user will not be able to remove our app from the devices. Similarly, for Windows devices, also we have a setting that needs to be disabled. So allow users to delete MDM workspace accounts should also be disabled. Whereas in the case of iOS devices, if a device is enrolled through DEP enrollment or Apple Configurator, the iOS profile cannot be removed from the device. So now we will be discussing the questions that we have received. The first is, we use Exchange Online. Does Mobile Device Manager Plus support it? Yes, Mobile Device Manager Plus supports both Exchange Online as well as Exchange On-Premises. So we can help you to create profiles with help for supporting these two options. Our next question is, what are the other methods of authentication that Mobile Device Manager Plus supports? We have 3 authentication methods that are supported. Let me show you what they are. So under Enrollment Settings, we have an option to use a one-time passcode that I had shown you in the invite. So the next one is the Active Directory authentication. This is the one authentication method that is used during self-enrollment. We can also choose to use this on our invites enrollment method as well. For extra security, we can use the combination of both of these methods. So when a user receives an invite, he will have to enter the OTP as well as his Active Directory credentials for authentication. My next question, is it possible to apply a profile created for one platform to devices running on other platforms? No, the profiles that we are created are specific to the platforms that they are created for. So we cannot apply them on others. My next question, I want to apply different policies as separate profiles. Is it possible to apply multiple profiles to devices? Yes, we can choose to do that. It is always recommended to apply the account-related profiles as a single profile and other policies separately. So let me show you how you can do that. So I will choose the devices, and here I have chosen a particular device and I will click on Associate Profile. Here I have chosen 2 profiles and I will be applying it. So as you can see, I have applied both the profiles to my device. The next question is, what will happen if I apply 2 profiles with contradictory restrictions? So in this case, whichever profile will keep the device more secure will be considered in the case of iOS devices. So let's say I have a profile which restricts camera usage and one which does not. So the camera will be disabled from iOS devices. Whereas in the case of Android devices, the profile that has been applied the latest will be considered. So this brings us to the end of our training program. We hope this has been beneficial to you and expect you to rate us on a scale of 1 to 5 at the end of the training. We will also be glad if you could spread a word about our training program on various social media platforms. Our next training is scheduled on June 8, 2017, 11:30 EDT. It will be dealing with app deployment and device security, and also a few extra features that we have added recently into our server. Thank you for attending this session. Hope you have a nice day.